Yep. Okay. Okay, hello, Nostar. Good evening, everybody. If everyone can start coming through, the event's going to start. Thank you.
Am I on over there? All okay? Croeso cynnes I chi gyd. Diolch yn fawr am ddod. Thank you very much for coming. A very warm welcome to you. It's lovely to see you here this evening. Thank you very much. We are here for Dolenni Digidol. Just as we're settling down, I know, right, I'm going to ask you to juggle lots now. So you've got food and drinks and headsets and so on. I got one more thing for you, which is a phone. So throughout the evening, we've got some Menti codes. This is Mentimeter to take some feedback. So if you can manage to take a quick snapshot and answer some of these questions, that would be great. There's one here and one at the end, but that would be much appreciated. Thank you. Oh, has he gone? Too soon? Oh, hang on, go back. Then couldn't juggle that fast. Brilliant. Okay, well, hopefully you managed to get a snapshot of that. I'm Peter Thomas. I am the lead for artificial intelligence. I nearly said deallusrwydd then, I was in Welsh mode. Head of digital skills and capability for the Centre for Digital Public Services. It's lovely to be able to welcome you here. And hello and welcome to our online audience as well. We are live streaming and we'll be live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube bilingually this evening, which we're very proud of. It's great to be able to do that. We are going to be taking photographs. So hopefully everybody's okay with that, if we don't mind. There's a camera at the back and Josh over there will be wandering about with a camera and taking photographs. If you don't want to be on those photographs, please let Josh know in particular and he'll avoid or blur or Photoshop or something. But that's a possibility. Okay, thank you. Here's our advert. So we are on live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. But if you're on the social media, please say something about the evening on LinkedIn. That would be great, much appreciated, spread the word. And we're also on Blue Sky. I don't know if anybody's on that, but we've moved over to Blue Sky from the other app that shall not be mentioned. Okay, I think we're pretty much ready to go. So I've given the... Oh, we'll do a quick test now, yeah. Mike has got the charge of the clicker over there because I'm notorious for not using it properly and advancing slides. So he's in charge. We're going to do a quick translation test. So if you'd like to use the simultaneous translation, you should have found a headset on your chair. If you just pop that on, we'll get started. Test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, ti'n gallu clywed? Dim popeth yn weithio, everybody happy. Sounds good, lots of nods, great, diolch yn fawr. Okay, and hopefully online, everything should be in the language of your choice on LinkedIn in particular. Right. Preamble out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so if we go on to the first slide for me, Mike, please. Here we go. So I'm going to be a bit bilingual tonight as well. So I'm going to start in Welsh and I'm going to move over into English later on. So hope you can keep up with me. Headsets on to begin with, please. Diolch yn fawr, thank you. Okay, right. Ychydig dros flwyddyn yn ôl, sefais yma gyda'r slaid hon a disgrifiais uchelgais i fynd i'r afael a'r problemau hyn. Roeddwn i'n mynd i greu rhaglen arweinyddiaeth. Roeddwn i'n gwybod bod diffyg gwybodaeth am yr hyn oedd eraill eisoes yn ei wneud ledled Cymru, a diffyg dealltwriaeth gyffredin o safonau technegol a dylunio gwasanaethau. Roeddwn i hefyd yn gwybod bod dulliau sefydledig o weithio sydd wedi profi'n llwyddiannus yr oeddym am ei rhannu. Doeddwn i ddim yn gwybod a fyddai'n gweithio. Doeddwn i ddim yn hollol siŵr pa fformat yr oedd angen iddo fod. Ac doeddwn i ddim yn gwybod a fyddai pobl yn digon diddordebga i fynychu. But if nothing else, leadership is about taking calculated risks, isn't it? So we went ahead. Ond yr hyn roeddwn i'n ei wybod oedd bod yr heriau ar y sgrin yn rai go iawn, ac roedd yr awydd am newid yn tyfu. Ar draws Cymru, roedd arweinwyr gwasanaethau cyhoeddus yn ymdrechu gyda'r rhain i gyd. Fe wnaethom gydnabod bod pocedi o arloesedd ac arbenigedd nad oedd ffordd glir o gysylltu pobl, rhannu dysgu nac adeiladu iaith gyffredin o amgylch trawsnewid digidol. Felly, fe wnaethom benderfynu creu rhywbeth newydd. Rhaglen arweinyddiaeth. Dyma ni, arwain gwasanaethau cyhoeddus modern. A fyddai'n dod ar arweinwyr y dyfodol ynghyd yn meithrin cydweithredu ac yn ein helpu i ddysgu oddi wrth ein gilydd. Roeddwn i am dynnu sylw at yr hyn oedd eisoes yn gweithio ac i greu gofod lle gallai pobl fod yn onest am yr hyn nad oedd yn gweithio. And now, a year on, we're here to celebrate the impact of that ambition. The programme's been up and running. We're going to hear from 3 amazing leaders from our very first cohort. We'll reflect on what we've learned and look ahead to the next chapter. But first, a quick recap. We launched with the support of Rebecca Evans, MS, Cabinet Secretary for Economy, Energy and Planning, in September 2024. We've run 3 fully subscribed cohorts, prioritising West Wales, North Wales, and we're currently running one in Cardiff. Next one is due to take place in January in Mid Wales. Exact location to be confirmed. But we've met, trained, and helped connect 45 leaders from 21 organisations. You might see yours up there. The people involved have had 5 days of intensive training, in-depth input from ourselves in CDPS, experts in their fields. We've had people from the Future Generations Office, the Turing Institute, but most importantly, the input has come from the other members of the programme, the other people on the cohort. And I think that's been the most valuable part of the programme, giving people that space to share a problem that they're facing and then have others in the room immediately talk about their experiences or the lessons they've learned, or even offer to help try to work together to solve something. So we're going to see, there's our cohort photos there. We're going to see some information about our leaders now. Here they are. I think, if I'm right, Mike, we're going to... What's the next slide? Sorry. I've lost track already. That's it. Okay, that is our next slide. So we're ready to introduce our leaders. Thank you very much. So first up, we're going to have Sarah Tillman, who's from Swansea Local Authority. You'll come in.
Noswaith a pawb. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, my thanks to the CDPS for inviting me to share my experiences completing the programme. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago, all in one space. It's been such a busy year, but it's really nice to reflect and celebrate. So very briefly, to anyone who hasn't met me before, my background, so 23 years in local government this month. Around 9 of those years within the senior leadership team and the Education Directorate in Swansea Council, and in very small nutshell, my remit is planning, performance and improvement. But it was in 2022 that I was given a really exciting opportunity to have the data and information systems team come within my area of responsibility. And I've known that team a very long time, but managing them, I got to know them even more. Very experienced, knowledgeable and very creative team who support the local authority, schools and external agencies. But they were stifled by the technology that they had. Very, very old. And instead of developing new ways of working, because they are very creative and knowledgeable, they were firefighting issues all of the time. So we developed a strategy in early 2023. We've just refreshed it with the aim to digital being an enabler to support our core purpose. I'll give an example of that. We've got additional learning needs coordinators in schools, supporting our most vulnerable learners, but often trying to put their development plans into a system that would wipe it halfway through, for example. So having one that worked for them and helped them do their core purpose was really valuable to us. So we developed our digital transformation programme. There are a number of projects, but a few key ones that we're doing. So our education information system, that's our core system that's used in the directorate, whole host of functions, additional learning needs, admissions, our central pupil records to do data analysis and things. Schools information system, so a few of you may be aware of that in other local authorities, been a lot of work around that across Wales. And we decided we needed to do our financial management system at the same time because it was linked. That makes it doubly complicated. And then our catering operations. So the front end is quite often easy with pupils choosing what they want, but the back end is hundreds of staff that support our catering operations across schools in Swansea. So I'm sure other local authorities. So trying to get that right is really key. So in terms of the programme itself, I became aware of the CDPS before the programme. There was a piece of work exploring options for schools MIS that was supported, and that was incredibly helpful to us, and that kick-started us and our work with the schools MIS. There has been game change in terms of suppliers developing for Wales that's opened up some of those options to us even further. But the comms promoting the launch event, for me, really seemed like something I was interested in. I am a local government leader, but I'm not a techie. I don't know an awful lot. I don't work in IT. So this was really interesting how I could perhaps support this team to deliver the best way that they can. And I live in Carmarthenshire, so it was only up the road, so I didn't really have an excuse not to come. But it was 5 days of really open and honest discussion, and I learned quite a lot of new things, and you gave some examples around some of the things that we learned. But I also became the opportunity to reflect on the areas that I already knew. And I think it's healthy for everybody to take that opportunity to evaluate what they're doing. Quite often we're so busy and fast-paced, we don't really take the time to stop and reflect whether we are actually doing those things well. So that was a really good opportunity for that as well. I did highlight some areas in the video, so I'm not going to repeat any of those. So I'm going to highlight really the mix of the group and the value of the group that was there, a range of roles of different sectors and different levels of responsibility. So even within leaders, there was a spectrum of how senior those leaders were. But I felt that that really gave really valuable insight from a whole host of different perspectives, and also to Tash and the CDPS staff, because everybody's experiences and knowledge from a whole host of different experiences gave really good solutions to a range of scenarios, and that really, I learned a lot from that. There were individuals on the course with particular areas of knowledge, and I feel comfortable to reach out to them on LinkedIn should I need them. And I'm keeping an eye on other cohorts as well as they're coming through and what roles they have. So I'm rubbish on LinkedIn, but I will definitely keep using it for that. So in terms of our progress since the programme, so we've successfully implemented our new education MIS. I'm really pleased about that. And it's one that's been developed by another local authority in Wales. We really feel that it understands what our needs are as a local authority. And we've implemented our core system, additional learning needs admissions. Our mid-year transfers was really clunky, so that's really digitalised now and much better with really positive feedback. But we are looking at how we further enhance our processes. For example, our school uniform grant on the front end to parents is quite a straightforward web form, but the back end to that, where they're processing it, again, is very manual and takes a long time. Then our schools information systems, I'd just like to give a nod to the WLGA's work to facilitate the development of requirement specification. So there are a number of local authorities that contributed to the development of that, but that was incredibly valuable to us as a local authority because it gave us the basis to undertake a really thorough options appraisal of the different things that, different suppliers that would be suited to us. And we just refined it ever so slightly for our local requirements, and that enabled us to procure a new system. It is a very complex project. We've got 94 school settings in Swansea, and each one of those schools has their own range of third-party apps that they want to connect into it. And we've got the financial management system replacement happening alongside it. So it's incredibly complex, but it is working well. We are delivering to planned timescales. And again, I'd just like to give my thanks to Hub colleagues because their organisation alongside our organisation has meant that we are delivering to time and with flexibility. In terms of our catering operations, that's been a tougher nut to crack. It's really difficult. We've looked out there, we've reached out to other local authorities and other organisations. Lots of people have something, but nothing's perfect. So I'm going to use my speech as an opportunity now. So if anyone is doing this well, please reach out to me. Or if anyone wants to work with us to develop something that works really well, please reach out to me. I'd love to work with you. So in terms of challenges ahead, I think my first words, I've got 3 words here. Expectations is the first one. A lot of people think new IT systems are really easy to deliver and implement, like it's their laptop at home. It really isn't. I try to manage people's expectations. There are nearly always niggles when you roll out a new system. They take a little while to iron out, but they will get there in the end. Speed, again, people expect things to happen really fast. To do it right, you need to take your time and do it properly. The next one is around resources. I think all public sector organisations, really are pressed in terms of financial and staffing resources. So we're quite often small organisations, and I strongly believe, hopefully you've picked that up through my earlier words, is that working together is key. I think there's so much power in that. And not just local government working together, but the vast range of public sector organisations we have in Wales. The final challenge, I think, is change fatigue and anxiety around change. That is a lot of effort that goes into that. And as people who facilitate change, it can be quite tiring as well. So let's look after ourselves and each other. And again, working together helps us deliver it well. So I think that's my 10 minutes. It's gone really, really quickly. So more than happy to chat to you after the event. But until then, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, Sarah. Thank you very much. That's fascinating stuff. We're straight on to Joshua Hunt. Joshua brings in his experience from DHCW, Digital Health and Care Wales. So a slightly different perspective on things, but one of our students from the very first cohort as well. So over to you, Joshua.
Diolch yn noswaith dda pawb. It's a real privilege to be invited to be part of this alumni panel tonight. I think the first question you've got to ask is, can you trust somebody that brings this amount of paper to talk to you about digital? And the second one is, and you can have this CDPS, but I have got a different job now since then as well. So I'm head of Agile Delivery for Digital Health and Care Wales since completing the programme. And I'm responsible for mainly vaccination services in Wales, digital vaccination services, but I also have a portfolio that includes other products, including children's health. And at the moment, I'm also leading on our pharmacy product, which is something called Choose Pharmacy, that we're entering a round of user engagement and user design for a complete rebuild from the ground up. So I've been asked to reflect on how the programme shaped me, but not only in terms of tools and theory, but in terms of how I approach things. So some of the things I'm going to talk about is resilience, how we approach that, how we build communities around shared challenges, and how I think about services in the round. So when I joined the course, I was leading the Welsh Immunisation System and other national digital services. And the programme gave me space to pause and think differently, not just about the delivery, but the fundamentals of public service leadership. So how we create clarity when resources are tight, how do we keep user needs at the heart of what we do, and how we connect with others that are facing the same pressures. One of the biggest takeaways for me was the digital service standards for Wales. I think they provide enormous clarity for those of us that are working in digital services. My prior role was as a service owner, and service ownership is, well, service owner is the only job that is listed in the digital service standards. And I think that is absolutely key for how we have to approach delivery, is thinking about services that are end-to-end, and they are not entirely digital. They will cross various different streams, and we need to think about that experience. And those good services aren't about shiny tech or IT systems. They're about being simple, human, and designed around the people that use them and need them. And that's guided a lot of the decisions and the way I've approached things since. So at DHCW, I've just started to establish a service owner community of practice. Stickers are available. I think I've got some in my bag if you want them. And our kind of spirit animal for that is the octopus, which represents, one, the octopus is one of the most intelligent animals in the animal kingdom, but also it's got lots of tentacles. And I think that surmises the approach that you need to take when you're thinking about these services. You have to have your kind of hands and reach over so many things. And again, that's where the team comes in as well, because you need strong teams that are sustainable and focused around problems, not programs that just spin up and have really good early investment, but then tail off and just hand something over, and then it kind of runs along and doesn't really do what people need. It's about coming back, understanding that actually you might have not quite solved the problem the first time. Having a sustainable team gives you second, third, fourth, and ongoing bites at the apple. And I've also encouraged my team to join the communities of practice that CDPS provide. And also our quality team at DHCW have embedded the service standards into our quality principles, which is massive. So that is embedded into how we think about delivering quality as an organisation. And shout out to Paul in my quality team. I'm not sure if he's watching this, but he's done a huge job on that. Resilience has been central to kind of how I've been thinking about things. Believe it or not, I'm not that old, and even though I am grey, and I got told when I was a kid that ginger people can't go grey, and it turns out they can, which is gutting. But over the last year, we've rolled out the biggest change to vaccinations in Wales in decades, and actually one of the reasons why I seem slightly wired this evening is that today is the first day of the vaccination campaign in Wales. And I'm really proud actually that I'm standing here and the team have helped deliver with all of our partners across the system over 30,000 flu vaccines, another 6,000 COVID, using the brand new system that we've designed, and we've more in the pipeline as the campaign goes on. And we've initially brought COVID and RS flu into one coherent service for the first time. And we've had real bumps along the way. The last 2 weeks has been really stressful. There's been challenges, unexpected failures, people getting things wrong, or, just not quite understanding it, or thinking, do you know what, actually, that feature that we thought was a really good idea 6 months ago might not be the best one now, so we need to do it. And I guess, where do you go and chat about that stuff? Because it's really, really hard and it's really, really messy. And I think that's one thing CDPS has really provided, not just with the course, but with their communities. I think before the course, I might have seen resilience as just keeping calm under pressure. But I came away understanding it differently. It's about recovery. It's about creating teams that can bounce back quickly, and using setbacks as fuel for improvement to go again. And that mindset has been vital because, like I said, transformation at the scale that we need in Wales is always going to be messy. And it's about how we deal with that. And just talking to experienced and diverse leaders, I was talking to people that have probably been in public service in Wales for as long as I've been around, and that's really inspiring, and from different contexts, which was awesome. And I think the other thing is confidence. A lot of people say, oh, Josh, you're quite confident. I think they confuse sometimes being big with being confident for some reason. I'm not actually that confident. I didn't have a LinkedIn profile until I joined the program, and then everyone was going around being like, oh, have you got LinkedIn? Add LinkedIn, use the link. And I was like, I don't have LinkedIn. And now I have, and I've just started blogging on there with week notes every week, writing about my thoughts. So, if that interests you, go and follow me. And just to say as well, the other shift for me is just thinking about how we conceptualize things in services, not just as an IT system, but that end-to-end experience. And that perspective, encouraged by the programme, has helped me much clearer about what my role is within Digital Health and Care Wales in creating that and coaching service owners that are accountable for the whole journey, not just a single product or system. Because the reality is, none of us can do this alone. Whether you're in health, housing, education, we're all wrestling with the same question. How do you define, own, and continually improve a public service in the digital era? And linked to that is the course really reinforced the importance of user-centered design. Again, it's key to the digital service standards, but we can't just keep designing systems around organizational convenience or just saying, oh, that thing solves this particular problem and then we'll shoehorn it in to solve some other stuff. We've got to think about a coherent service that is designed and resourced around our users' needs on a sustainable level. After the program began, I started recruitment with our head of UCD at DHEW, Rachel, who is watching this online, I'm told, so hello, Rachel. And now we've got a dedicated UCD team in Digital Health and Care Wales, service designers, we've got interaction designers that we're recruiting for shortly, content designers, and it's a huge step forward for us. And it's one that's directly rooted in the digital service standards for Wales. And I think not just the course, but the wider CDPS community has given us that framework to operating, but also contacts that we can leverage, which has really helped us with things like recruitment. And that external support has been crucial. So just to sum up, I think the challenges ahead, are significant. Demand is rising, expectations just continually to grow, not just in terms of what people expect as a digital service, but in terms of pace of delivery. And digital is no longer optional, it's fundamental. So I think the path forward for me is about holding on to some of the habits that the programme's instilled, being really deliberate and anchored in the digital service standards for Wales, investing in our communities of practice, and ensuring that no one is left to solve these problems in isolation. And one of the things that I think CDPS has really given us a license for is talking about things like open source and open sourcing software. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at now. At DHEW, we've got a GitHub. We have published some of the work that we've done on vaccinations. I think our vaccination fire data schema is out there and open sourced, and we're looking to make more things available. And it's about how we share those things and leverage connections and investment for multiple use cases across the public sector. So just to surmise, if you are considering the program or you've got people on your teams that are considering the program, my advice is just do it, go in, be open, and I think you'll come out with a network and a set of principles that will guide you long after those sessions end. And I think those of us that are in the alumni community, I'm really looking forward to just building on those connections, because the challenges ahead are far too big for any of us to do those alone. So diolch yn fawr iawn.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I hope you're picking up on this theme of connectedness and the alumni working together and benefiting from shared connections across the system and different experiences. So we're going to another experience now, and this is from the WRA, and this is my opportunity to invite Nina up to talk about her experiences. Here we go.
I like to multitask. Okay. So I'm just going to start off by telling you a little bit about the Welsh Revenue Authority. We're a small organisation, an arm's length body of Welsh Government, set up to collect devolved taxes, and we collect two taxes currently, land transaction tax and landfill disposals tax. My name's Nina Engelhardt, and I'm head of operational delivery, so I have overall responsibility of making sure that we are administering and collecting the taxes lawfully. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about, oh, sorry, I've got a, something just popped up on my laptop, 2 seconds, right. The reason why I joined the programme, so the WRA was set up back in 2018, and things have evolved in the WRA over the last 8 years, and we started talking about a service delivery approach. And if I'm honest, I wasn't particularly sold on the idea. So when I saw the programme come up, I thought, right, that's a really good opportunity for me to basically find out a little bit more, connect with other people, find out what's going on across Wales in public services. And it really did do that. It was a complete game changer. So literally from the first day, I went back into the organisation saying, like, everyone needs to do this course. And I'm really proud to say that the current cohort that is operating in Cardiff currently, I've got 4 people from the WRA actually taking part on that. I should have had some sort of commission for having the people on the places. Just a little bit about our corporate plan. So it just basically says like what we actually do. So we've got a new corporate plan that was launched this year. And our purpose is to design and deliver revenue services, I've said, and lead to the better use of Welsh taxpayer data. And we do this by making it easy for our taxpayers and being fair and consistent and being a sustainable and future-focused organisation. This just gives us a little bit of history of the WRA, and I've put this in particular because it'll draw out what I want to go on and explain. So as I said, like, it was formed by Welsh Government in 2017 and set up to collect and manage the first devolved taxes. And we've had some real milestones along the way, which we're really proud of. So 2021, £1 billion worth of tax revenue raised, and that goes back into public services in Wales. In 2023, we were asked to do a discovery project on the visitor levy service. So you may have heard of visitor levy. It's featuring quite heavily in the news at the moment. Positive and negative, mixed reviews, I think. But we're basically the named delivery partner. So right now we have an implementation team up and running in the WRA, setting up visitor levy and a national register for visitor accommodation providers. So quite an exciting time as well. Something new coming in as well. And this year that we're really proud of as well. So in 2025, we've hit that target of £2 billion worth of tax revenue raised in Wales. So really exciting stuff. So going back to the services then. So as I said, WRA is, as you can see, is growing and evolving. And it led us to look at how we were operating. And with the introduction of new taxes, we needed to think about how we operate and whether the current structure was sustainable. So there was lots. Oh, disappeared. Lovely, thank you. So lots of discussion took place within the organisation about, as we're growing, can we continue to operate in the same way as we always have done. So the size of the organisation, when I started in 2017, there was 40 people in the organisation. As of today, there's 110 people in the organisation, which feels quite large, but it's still quite a small organisation nonetheless. One of the things that our operating model has always been, and we were keen to really sort of protect this as well, is we operate using our approach, which is the Welsh way of doing tax. And the Welsh way of doing tax is about supporting and educating the user to get it right first time. And we felt that was still really important for us, and we really wanted to protect that going forward. So where we've landed in the organisation, we have made the decision to move to a service delivery approach, and we've landed on 3 external services. And how we landed on those was we started to think, like, what did the user need to do to actually interact with the organisation? So if you're needing to pay your tax, first of all, you need to register with us. Then you need to know how much tax you need to pay, so you need to be able to calculate your tax. And then finally, then you need to actually be able to pay your tax or request a refund. So the 3 services that we've landed on is a registration service, a tax calculation service, and a payment service. And these are our external facing services. And I'll talk more about those shortly. Working in a service way, what we've discovered, requires greater collaboration. But fortunately, because we were such a small organisation, there was a lot of collaborating working happening within the organisation. And again, having that buy-in from senior leaders was really important. So we had the senior leaders, our chief exec, actually introduce the idea of services to the organisation. And that helped to break down barriers as well. And then to further sort of break down those barriers and give people an opportunity to express what they thought and how this would work in practice, I run a series of roadshows going out to each area, rather than just doing a big sort of conversation with the whole organisation, actually going out into individual teams and speaking to those, because depending on what team you're in and what sort of work you were going to be doing, the service delivery model would impact you differently. So give people an opportunity just to have a think about that and raise questions and be totally open and honest about, like, this way of working. The other thing that I really sort of championed at that time as well, doing those roadshows, was basically telling everyone, I'm still actually learning. This is really new to me, and I haven't got all the answers. And I think one of the reasons why we probably delayed going out and speaking to teams, as a senior leadership team, we had many a debate about that this needed to be perfect, that we needed to launch something that everyone was going to be, we could stand it up and go, yeah, this is the finished product and this is how we're going to be working. And actually, from being on the programme and listening to other organisations and the challenges that they were facing, it became really apparent to me that actually I didn't need to know all the answers. It didn't need to be perfect. And this was something that we could actually improve with feedback and buy-in from people within the organisation to actually create this and take it forward. Ultimately, WRA, we want to deliver the best possible services that we can for our users, and we really need to understand their needs. Something that in the early days that we weren't particularly good at, if I'm honest. We would see that we would need to change in maybe a system or a tax return, and we would just go ahead and change that and then take it out to the users and go, what do you think? And they'd go, well, it doesn't work for us. And we go, well, it works for us, type of thing, you know. So there's definitely been a change of how we operate. So there's a lot more user research that happens. There's a lot more acting on feedback that comes into the organisation, and that really does drive change and how we want to look at that. We always consider those digital changes, but alongside the digital changes, we also look for those quick wins, because they can have quite a big impact as well, and we can actually deliver them quite quickly sometimes too. And like I said, we do this by listening to feedback and acting upon that as well. Okay. So this was touched upon, and it's quite interesting because I've gone last. There's very similar sort of issues that we've experienced as organisations are experiencing as well. So working in services really requires the right resource, the right knowledge, capability and skills. And we haven't got an endless source of people, so we really had to think about how we use skills and prioritise what we do. And the service approach that we operate under really relies on a good relationship between the service owners and the line manager. So we're now moving into the realms of matrix management, and actually the service approach actually has probably a bigger impact on line managers than it does on anyone else in the organisation, because they're no longer responsible for allocating work, and that can feel really uneasy for managers. And actually they are there to support the professional development of their team, their well-being, and they're moving more into coaching roles as well. So it's making sure that we're building the capability around that to support the service delivery. And then having that really good relationship with the service owner is key, so that they can understand the task that's being required of their team member, know then where the skill gaps are, and work with them and support them in order to deliver the work that they've been asked to do. I mentioned earlier about sort of breaking down barriers, and this leads on to the need to be open and honest and transparent, as I said. In the WRA, we're currently trialling working more in the open, so sharing developments, risks, issues and achievement as they happen. So rather than, which we were quite good at as well, sort of at the end of it going, this is what's worked really well, but nobody really gets to know like what or how you've, like lots of issues that you've had to get over to be able to get to that point. So sharing that so people can learn and take that forward into their services, take that forward into their work, which is really key. And then to bring the organisation along, it's all well and good as having services and saying that these are our 3 services, but people need to know what the services are there to do. So the last couple of months I've spent working with the service owner, actually service owners developing visions for the services and sharing them in the organisation and getting feedback. And these visions are really short and punchy. They are 2 sentences long for each of the services, which I'm quite proud of that I've managed to get it into 2 sentences. But it literally sets out what the service is there to do. And to tie in with the corporate plan is what we're going to achieve by 2028. Just to sort of bring that, so it runs alongside the corporate plan, and then we'll look at it again when we're reviewing the corporate plan before 2028. Underneath each of the service visions, there's a roadmap, and that underpins that and provides all the detail. And we're currently working on that. Now, the idea of that is to give people some information. It's also there to help people with development as well. So they can look at the roadmap, see what's coming up and think, oh, actually, that's something I would be interested in. Go and speak to the service owner, go and speak to their line manager and see how they can get involved in that, or see where their skill gaps are and see what training and capability that they require to be able to help with that piece of work. The resource in the organisation, as I've mentioned earlier, we're in an implementation stage for new tax and a register. So it is really tight in the organisation right now. So in order to make sure that we're working on the right things within our services, we've set up a what we call an existing services working group. And essentially, we've got a scoring matrix that looks at whatever is on the visions and the backlogs, and there is a lot on the backlogs. And basically, they are prioritising that. And as new ideas come in, that list gets refreshed, and as things get completed, it gets refreshed. So we're making sure that we're actually working on the right things to develop our services in the right way. It's a really exciting time for the WRA, and working in an agile way is going to be really key to our success going forward. One of the things we've stressed to our people is the need for flexibility. And that's quite hard, you know, asking people to be working on maybe multiple things when they've been used to picking up a job, completing the job, and then moving on to the next task. So a lot of our digital and data people have got several different things ongoing, and then working with the service owners to be able to prioritise where they spend their time during the week. We're really confident that working in the service way will improve our delivery. And as I said, it creates lots of development opportunities for our people as well. And more importantly, and something that I really wanted to strive for as well, is making sure that our jobs are more interesting as well, and giving people those opportunities to be empowered to say like what they think, and provide the feedback in shaping the service delivery way in the WRA. So thank you very much.
Mike really doesn't trust me with that clicker. Well, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you, Nina. Well, it's really heartwarming. It's really validating hearing all these stories. But for me, the real joy has been in the room with our cohort and listening to 12, 15 people like this with these kind of stories and enthusiasm, and hearing how they're taking ideas and sharing concepts and ways of working and seeing the impact. So it's absolutely brilliant. And I just want to say thank you very much. We will do a proper thank you later on, but thank you very much indeed for coming now. But don't think the evening is over. Your next job is to sit on the panel. So hopefully you have, I know there's loads of enthusiasm for signing people up, and there'll be an opportunity to do that later on. But if you've got any questions about the programme, the things that have been talked about, the experiences, then we are going to switch over to a panel question mode now. So Mike will have some mics and my clicker. Oh, of course, yes, and David's also one of the first cohort. In fact, David, if you come up now, you can introduce yourself while everybody's coming up. We've pounced on David as he came through the door and said, do you want to come and answer some questions? Here we go. If you grab that mic. Here we go. And just introduce yourself. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Josh. Is there a button? There's a little button, just press a button.
Hello. Oh, that's better. The digital service bit. Lovely. So, Prynawn da, good afternoon, pawb. My name's David James. I work for Hywel Dda University Health Board as well as DHCW. So I come at this session from a digital clinical role. So really bringing the clinical voice into what we're doing. So I'm a...
Testing.
Even better. So I'm a digital enthusiast within a clinical role, and really wanted to bring more of the foundations of the clinic, digital elements to clinical practice. So healthcare, especially in the pharmacy domain, which I work, is coming into one of the biggest changes with electronic prescribing within secondary care and prescriptions in community care. So, so there's lots of digital advancement, and it's really important that we do this correctly. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do these things and get the appropriate leaderships in place at the right time, and giving our clinical staff the right skills to be able to do this appropriately as well. So that's a little summary of me.
Thank you very much. That's better. Right, got the button. I know there are likely to be some questions. I have one myself, but I'm going to sit on that and wait and see if anybody's going to dive in before me. So let me open up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions for the panel, please?
How we design the programme so that we'd get that cross-fertilisation. Can I ask you, what did you find you had in common? Were there very common themes, and what did you find differed between organisations or your sectors?
From my perspective, I think everyone who I was on the cohort with definitely had a passion for working in the public sector. I think everyone wants to make services better for our communities. The people really strongly came across that, everybody who I spoke to. In terms of difference, I would say resources. I felt that as a local government organisation, we don't have the types of resources compared to perhaps the civil service does. And so when we were talking about sort of what's it called, cross-functional teams, we've not got the opportunity to do that and won't do. But we do have people who perhaps do that in a different ways. They perhaps wear a lot of hats. I think that's what I said in my video. So they do undertake a lot of different functions, but it's one person rather than a single person each type of role. So that was mine, yeah.
Yep, very similar. Just bringing different organisations together makes you think differently as well. It gives you different perspective on things. So that was quite insightful. I think like one of the things that was a real eye opening to me. I've been in the civil service for all my career, but understanding how local authorities operate and the challenges local authorities have are very different to what we were having. So like that resource. And I think like our resource is tight, but then when you speak to someone in the local authority, like actually we're doing okay with it in that space. So it was quite good to have that comparison and a bit of a perspective on things as well.
I think one of the things I'd say as well is there's like so many shared challenges in terms of sustainability and funding and cycles and how we kind of shift away from kind of like a big program mindset into kind of a more sustainable, iterative mindset in terms of how we approach our services. And I think everyone that I spoke to, regardless of the organisation, had really similar challenges. And I think that was really interesting. I also just found it really eye-opening as well, because the kinds of things that you're doing in like a local authority. So like, you know, I had a really fascinating conversation with someone about bins of all things, and actually how interesting that is. And in terms of just like digital connectivity and Wi-Fi across council areas, just like they aren't the challenges that I've got, and it's just fascinating to find out about those things. So I thought it was really eye-opening from that point of view as well.
Yeah, from my perspective, we always think we're the weakest link in all of it, regardless of which public sector we're in. But it's ironically, it's quite comforting to know that everybody's facing very similar challenges, and we're all trying to find either find the same types of roles, people, to be able to problem solve and bring everything together, and yeah, having that networking opportunity and bringing and sharing our challenges really helped to the networking opportunity and bring some of the, I suppose, some of the challenges that we've been facing together in such a short period of time by serendipity sometimes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Jennings, currently working for NRW. Having done a decade in local authority, a decade in health, and now a arm's length government body, I suppose what comes through is your enthusiasm for, you know, that cross-fertilisation. And we all want to be part of Team Wales. We say that all the time, but then actually taking it to the next stage is really difficult. So because we have different protocols, different guardrails that stop us working together, what did you come away from your cohort in terms of hope of what we could do better together beyond just sharing the warm, cosy feeling of shared problems? Or, you know, did you feel hopeful that we have a much bigger Welsh perspective that we could work towards?
Yes. I think I mentioned it in my talk, but the fabulous thing about what I think the digital service standards for Wales and genuinely the resources on the CDPS website do is how much of a license they give to teams that do want to push and do want to move forward in terms of things like open source and working together across the system. So on our DHCW Figma, for instance, we've now got a section that I think Josh in CDPS has access to, where we can do a bit of joint prototyping and those kind of things. I've talked about the kind of stuff that I'm really pushing on in terms of open sourcing the code that we make as a team. I think that historically, and having joined the NHS 5 years ago next week, I think, that was not a conversation that I would have been able to have 5 years ago. That's a conversation now that we're having regularly. And I do sense a change in that, and I do sense an optimism because, I mean, most of us are in what we do because we love what we do it, But I mean, the buzz of doing things that are genuinely for Wales and for Welsh citizens, I think, is incredibly motivating. And the idea that then some of the challenges that we can be solving could be shared. So even within a health setting, one of the things that we're looking at now is how we can take some of the lessons that we've learned from our vaccination service, particularly with risk stratification and cohorting, and apply that to other use cases, such as screening services, and doing that through sharing, not just actual, oh yeah, we did this, it was good, we wouldn't do that, and chatting, but actually sharing physical stuff as well, such as code or design repositories.
Thank you. Chris Owen, Chief Digital Officer for Nice Talbot Council. Great to see the level of enthusiasm, and thanks for the presentations, really, really informative. I suppose the question I've got is around how do you maintain momentum and grow the sphere of influence around what you've learned through the opportunity, and get other people to buy into this? Because what we see, certainly from a local authority perspective, with the diverse range of services we provide, is that the culture is not always there within the organisation to really understand this, and you end up trying to push it onto service areas rather than them pulling it from you. So A, how do you keep it going? And B, how do you then grow the sphere of influence?
So from my perspective, one of the things, like I said, I've really championed CTPS within the organisation to get people sort of bought in and signed up to different training courses, and we've got 4 people currently on the current cohort. But the biggest thing to keep the momentum going is to get everyone involved in the organisation, which as a small organisation, that's a lot easier to do than a larger organisation. So going out and speaking to people, acting on their feedback as well. So they're actually helping us shape this service delivery way of working within the WRA. And that's quite exciting. They get to shape their jobs to a certain extent and identify different areas that they want to build capability, so that we keep that momentum going and keep that conversation going as well. And just getting the buy-in from the senior leaders as well, and getting that support right away across the organisation. It's definitely, the culture in the WRA has always been a supportive culture, but you can definitely see that has ramped up, and there's a lot more communications between teams than there were previously. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, from my perspective, it certainly has to be a buy-in from senior leadership to understand the importance of programs such as this, not just from a do the program for 5 days, but it's the responsibility of the individual then to take it back into the organisation and make that difference and champion it and moving it forward. And that's when we get a critical mass of people really championing, taking the organisation into the next step and pushing it forward. So.
Just to add to that, that is one of the challenges, definitely, is building that momentum, that snowball effect. But I think what we've seen is the level of awareness being raised, and that's the first step. Once people are aware, then you can do something about it. Sharing those problems, sharing those experiences. But prior to that step, prior to actually coming on to the programme and meeting people, there's the expression of interest form, which requires a line manager or a leader in the organisation to almost sponsor the application. So it's not just about coming on a course, having 5 lovely days out of the office, but it's actually accepting that person's going to come back with lots of ideas and hopefully the enthusiasm to implement them back at base. So that's going to impact what's been normality previously. So hopefully, I think that's what's happened. People have had senior leader buy in and started the ball rolling.
Thanks. Hi again, everyone. Bex Llewellyn from Carmarthenshire County Council / Swansea Bay City Deal Digital Infrastructure Programme. Quite a job title, love that. So I actually have a related question to Chris's, and I actually was given a place on the first cohort and had to withdraw due to health, unfortunately. So it's really interesting to see and hear your experiences. So the two things I wanted to get out of the course for myself was linking to Chris's point, that cultural and behavioural shift, but more from within a digital world, I suppose, in that leading modern public services, everybody automatically goes to the technical and the digital solutions, and none more so than the people who know the digital and technical solutions and how they all work. And for me, that's sometimes a challenge to then, picking up a bit on what Josh was saying in his piece about actually where you're going with it and how you are iterative in it, because people get stuck into that kind of, it's this solution and it's this system or whatever, it's this technical solution. So I was hoping to get out of the course a bit about how we could support cultural shift more from the technical perspective than maybe the leadership perspective. So I wondered if anybody had any experiences on that and had used any techniques they'd picked up from the course on that. And then in relation to that, again, picking up on a point that Josh raised, it's that balance of modern public services and not just digital services, and how do you balance the non-digital and the digital aspects of solutions, I guess. So if you had any experiences around that you took away from this course.
I'm going to dive in really quickly first. You've noticed the title for the programme is Leading Modern Public Services, deliberately not including the word digital. So we thought long and hard about this. We are the Centre for Digital Public Services after all, but the digital bit is I guess it's a lowercase d, because it's all about that entire end-to-end service design, and it's not just about using the tech. We've invited people and accepted people onto the cohorts who are not specifically digital roles, and we're looking to increase that as well. So, you know, it's all very well having somebody in digital talking about how wonderful digital is and the solution to things, but actually you need your social services director to understand it and allow the team to start thinking in different ways, and so on. So yeah, just a quick one from me. Anybody want to dive in next?
So putting the user at the centre of everything that we do has been really important, and understanding the user's journey for the service. So we've spent time actually mapping out those journeys as well, and understanding where there's digital impact, where there's non-digital impact. And to be honest, a lot of the so one of the things we do in tax is we try and mitigate risk. So we have a tax risk, and ideally we want to take some action that mitigates that risk, so it no longer becomes an issue and people get it right first time. And we did start off in a place a few years back where we were like, it has to be a digital change. That's the only thing that's going to fix that. But actually, we're now in a space where we need to do user research first and foremost, and understand like why people get it wrong in the first place. And quite often, the first sort of changes that are happening are things like the guidance needs improving, or the form needs updating, you know, things like a question needs rewording based on feedback because people are not understanding the question, and that's why they get things wrong. So yeah, it's not always that digital solution.
What I'd say as well is one of the best pieces of work that my team have done in the last month or so that I've really, really enjoyed watching happen isn't really digital. It was actually redesigning a letter, because the fact is, when within vaccinations, the biggest risk categories are the over 75s. And there's a lot of over 75s that are now digitally enabled and actually do seek digital solutions. But we also know there are so many people, for reasons not just of access, but of trust, value a written letter through their door more than they do a text message or anything else. So as much as we think about the NHS Wills app, which we're now doing a lot of work on, letters and the written word will always have a place in that. And I'll also be honest as well in terms of the iteration. The current letters that people are receiving, I'm not particularly proud of. They're not that great. They evolved during COVID, and we've made real compromises in there to meet like Welsh language standards and that. During the course, I actually got the trio writing book, and actually that has fed into that way that we've created that letter, because our content designer has worked with Welsh speakers and Public Health Wales Behavioural Insights team to understand what messages are going to land. And we've taken a letter that was running into multiple pages into one page. One side is Welsh, and designed for a Welsh speaker. The other side is English and designed for an English speaker. And we've also started to incorporate the public health messaging in terms of the headers. So, if you see a message on the back of a bus, vaccination saves lives, that's in the letter that you receive. So that work's been done and that's going to go live. And I think that also speaks to the point about iteration and continuing to build on things. And in terms of, the way programs used to be, or still are delivered in some cases, you end up with something and then you just kind of lump it until you replace it in 5, 10, 15 years' time. Whereas actually, some of the underpinning technologies that we have in our vaccination service today in 2025 are vastly different, but some of them are also the same as what helped deliver the COVID program, and Wales led that worldwide. So it's understanding about how you can iterate things. And I think in terms of technology generally, there are stickers out there that I think you still got, and I think I got them at the course. It's not about tech. I think it's people, not tech. But anyway, you've got those, and I think they're really, really important. That being said, technology choices are still really, really important, and making the right ones that are sustainable, not getting into big licensing agreements where you can, all of that stuff. I'm really, really passionate about that, but I've talked for too long on that answer, so stop.
Yeah, I just want to echo what the other said. I think it's about understanding what people need comes before digital. I think digital is the next bit. For our schools, MIS, for example, our head teachers were absolutely crying out for simplicity in their day-to-day lives. They've got parents coming through the door, they've got children crying, they've got their teachers going off sick, or, in the morning, they've got 1,000,001 things to deal with. What they don't want to do is log into a system that's crashed, or they can't get the data out of it because it's not producing what they need. But so for us, understanding really what is it that you need before we go ahead and look at something. And so, I think technology, as you say, is really important. We've taken our time to select the right technology as well, because if we get that wrong, it's just going to put another problem instead of the original one. So yeah, it's people first, and as I say, tech next, but the tech is important too. Yeah.
From my perspective, I had a reading list as long as my arm going through the process. So the number of book recommendations, especially with regards to behavioural change, psychology, and how people interact with things, it's extremely useful. So there was lots of self-directed learning and reading off the back of that, and yeah, it's a lot of psychology that we do in our day-to-day roles, whether we know it or not. It really does help alongside all of the digital stuff that we need to do as well. So I learned a lot off the behavioural science element, which is extremely useful.
Okay, I'm getting the nod from Mike. We are going to start wrapping up, but just before, trio writing books are out. So please help yourself. They should be on the chairs. Marvellous message from the team here. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to end up by actually asking Mr. Glyn Jones, who's the Chief Digital Officer from Welsh Government, who's been involved in this from the very start. He knew it was coming and has seen it grow. So I'm going to ask him for some closing remarks, please.
Right, okay. Diolch yn fawr, Pete. Mae wedi bod yn noson arachog. Mae'n bleser glywed gen pawb sydd wedi graddio o'r rhaglen yma. Doedd y strategaeth digidol ar gyfer Cymru byth yn ymwneud jyst â technoleg. Y nod oedd i gwella gwasanaethau, ac i wneud hyn drwy edrych ar anghenion defnyddiwr a dylunio'r gwasanaethau o gwmpas yr anghenion yna, ac i wneud o drwy cydweithio a dysgu rhyngddo ni ein gilydd a draws y sector cyhoeddus, ac oedden ni gyd yn edrych ar yr un problemau. Dwi'n meddwl mae Sarah, Jos a Nina a Dafydd wedi dangos heddiw sut maen nhw'n gwneud hynna'n lleol. A doedd y strategaeth digidol hefyd, bod o'n seren y gogledd i ni gyd, oedd angen iddo gael ei gyflawni drwy gweithio yn agos yn gweithio yn leol, a dyna da ni wedi gweld gen pawb sydd wedi siarad heddiw. Da ni'n sôn am y rhaglen yma yn dod â arweinydd i'r dyfodol. Wel, dwi'n meddwl da ni wedi cwrdd â 4 arweinwyr hir yn naw heddiw. sydd yn mynd allan ac yn bencampwyr am y safonau digidol ac am y strategaeth digidol ac i gwneud bywydau pobl yn well trwy ffyrdd o weithio digidol. Felly, da iawn i chi gyd, llongyfarchiadau i chi gyd, llongyfarchiadau i bawb sydd wedi graddio ar y rhaglen yma, a llongyfarchiadau i Pete a pawb arall sydd wedi gweithio ar dylunio'r cwrs yma, ac dwi'n meddwl bod o'n gwrs arbennig o bwysig i ni i edrych ymlaen a sut fyddwn ni'n cael arweinwyr digidol yn y dyfodol. Da ni ddim yn mynd i sortio hyn allan mewn 1 neu 2 flwyddyn. Mae'n rhywbeth sydd yn tymor hir, mi fyddwn ni angen yr arweinwyr yn y dyfodol. Felly, ewch allan, siaradwch yma'r rhaglen gyda'ch tîm chi, siaradwch gyda'ch arweinwyr i fyny yn y graddau uwch a cael nhw ar y rhaglen, achos mae angen i bawb deall beth mae gwellad gwasanaethau yn wirioneddol feddwl. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch yn fawr. Right, now for some adverts. Do you remember that phone I asked you to get out earlier? Can you dig it out again? I got a couple more QR codes for you. So if you are interested in registering for the program yourself, here we are. These are the QR codes. Or even just take a photo and share it with somebody you think needs it. That would be great. Next cohort is January 2026. Probably mid-Wales. Exactly where, we're not sure quite yet. You stand out of the way. I think we'll be sharing these as direct links afterwards as well with everyone who's registered, but got to love a QR code. So here's another. This is the last one for this evening. Before you move away and find what's left of the lovely fancy cheese, and there is a glass of wine. Apparently Myra's buying, is that right? Behind the bar. Please would you give us some feedback on the event? Just, I think there's only a couple of little questions, but that would be much appreciated. So a quick advert for what's coming up. We have the fantastic event of GovCamp Cymru coming up in November. It's taking place in Cardiff. There's an absolute desire for leaders to be there. They were seriously missed last year. Not enough people of leadership positions being there. So CDPS are a platinum sponsor. We're really, really behind this. And as you can tell, it's all about connecting people. And lots of things happen when we bring people together in the right environment. And that is one. So please be on the lookout for that. There is a special leadership level ticket.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, let me know. There is a leadership code, so you can get a special, back of the pocket tickets. Yeah, because I think the last they go like gold. It's like a Taylor Swift concert, but I think the last drop is this Thursday. But you got to be quick. But there is a code for leaders.
Have a word with Mike. And then the next two, Dolenni Digidol. So events just like this one, we're going to be up in North Wales in December and back in Cardiff then for March. So if you can make either of those, it would be wonderful to see you. But if you have colleagues in those areas, please share the word. Okay, I think that brings us to a diolch. I want to say a massive diolch yn fawr to our panellists. Thank you ever so much for your time. Thank you for being such wonderful people on the cohort and for coming here tonight and sharing your experiences. Really, really appreciate it. I definitely owe you a pint after what you said tonight. I want a quick thank you to Mike and the team, the comms team and CDPS who've put all this together and made it as slick as possible, kept me away from the clicker so things have run smoothly. And finally, a massive thank you to you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And we'd love to see you again, but don't shoot off. Stay and have a chat. Any more questions? We're here for the next half hour or so, I think, before we get kicked out. So there we go. Please take advantage of that. Lots of fancy cheese left too. So, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much all.